Hey, welcome to Exhibitor Lounge, sponsored by exhibitedge.com. I'm your host, and of course your trade show mixologist, Michael Gray. Here each week you receive simple, practical, and proven tips to improve your trade show strategy, get better results, and maximize your budget. Today we look at other types of non-official contractors that support trade shows. They are the installation and dismantle companies that provide on-site show floor labor for individual exhibits. These companies are also known as I&D contractors or labor companies. All right, so how do they work? These labor companies usually have just a small storage facility in major show cities that are operated by a city manager who is a full-time salaried employee of the labor company. The storage facility provides space for ladders, job boxes, and other basic show floor supplies. When needed, the I&D company will load their vehicle and deliver all the supplies to the show site. Now, deliveries of equipment and supplies and other overhead costs, including the city manager's salary, are absorbed by the I&D company as they only charge a client for the actual hours worked on site. Now, they usually do charge a slightly higher rate and a 4-hour minimum to offset some overhead costs, and because many unions require a 4-hour minimum when a union worker is called in by the company. Now, in some cases, I&D companies are willing to waive the minimum when they have multiple clients on a show. So it's good to ask for a waiver up front at the time you schedule your labor. Now, your display house is in a better position to be granted lower rates and waivers as they tend to have more long-term relations with these companies. The I&D company will have pre-established contracts with the local unions, as most trade show locations in the United States are union affiliated. Now, the unions provide labor to support these I&D companies, as well as the show's general contractor. Now, many display houses also have union contracts in their city, but not in most out-of-town locations. Most dedicated I&D companies have multiple locations. Display houses like to work with I&D companies to support their clients in these out-of-town locations. The display house will send a supervisor to manage the complexity of big exhibits, and then they will use local I&D company labor to work under the direction of their supervisor. Now, these I&D companies usually have a core group of highly trained craftsmen that work on a regular basis just for them, even though they are still temporary union workers. Now, the general contractor, also called the GC, that is in charge of the overall trade show, will also have labor available to support exhibitors from the same union or labor pool. Okay, so the first tip I can give you is that you tend to get more, say, lead men through the I&D company than with the general contractor. Another distinction to note, the GC labor can be slightly less expensive in many cases, and they do not require a 4-hour minimum as most I&D companies do. All right, so here's my second tip. If you only need help for an hour or two, then the GC labor may be better on your budget. I also want to say, stop breaking your back. An hour or two of labor can help on a show floor, and it can really make a difference instead of you trying to handle things yourself. All right, now my third tip is be smart. Learn when to get your labor. Don't request labor at 9 or 10 a.m. when they get a paid break on your clock from 10 to 10:15. Instead, get your labor from, say, 8 to 10 or 10:30 to noon. Also, learn when overtime goes into effect at the end of each day. Sometimes it is 4:30 and other times it is 5 p.m. Another quick tip I will cover in later episodes, but I'm just going to throw it out here now, is sometimes it's good to dismantle on overtime when comparing the extra cost against overtime drayage if you wait until the next day to dismantle on straight time. All right, I know that I will get a lot of questions about this, but these are some of the tricks of the trade. Now, if you have a larger project and prefer the benefits of lead men that work on a regular basis for the I&D companies, then these specialized companies are available in most convention cities. All right, talk to your display house. Many display houses have reduced rate pricing with I&D companies, which help offset some third-party costs. Reduced rate pricing can also position their rates sometimes lower than the GC's rates. As always, please respond with your questions or comments and let others know about exhibitorlounge.com. Hey, we'll see you next week. Until then, I'm your host, Michael Gray, telling you, relax in the Exhibitor Lounge.